Hello, and welcome to FileCatalyst Workflow 5.0 webinar. Thank you all for coming. It looks like we have a very good group here listening to me today. So without any further delay, let's get started. My name is John T HFC. I'm the president and co-founder of FileCatalyst. I'm one of the main architects of the workflow solution, and I'm very excited today to share with you the new and improved Workflow 5.0 that will be released in the spring of this year. Probably by late March, we will have an official release of that, of this new product. You can always watch my latest webinars. Here's the link. Or you can go to our blog, where I blog myself and a lot of my staff as well blogs about file transfer issues and security and web development and all these other cool things. So today this webinar is really not only to show you 5.0, but also where I'm going to give you a demo, but I also want to go over the basics of workflow with those that are not familiar with the product. So you have a better idea and understanding how it works. And as well, I want to go over you some basics of the file transfer acceleration for those that have never seen our acceleration here. As I mentioned, this webinar will be recorded, and so will be available on offline viewing later. For those that are actually here, you'll have a chance to ask questions. And if you have any questions, please enter them into the GoToWebinar questions pane, and I will get to them at the end of my presentation. So I'm not going to spend too much time on our acceleration technology. We have a ton of material on this. We have a patent on the acceleration as well. So I'm not going to go too much through this, but bottom line, FileCatalyst will always give you a full line speed. Up to 10 gigabits, and we're not affected by latency and packet loss that normally you will see in TCP based file transfers. And as well, we provide you full ability to integrate with cloud storage like Amazon S3, Azure, OpenStack, and many others cloud storage vendors. So once again, this is a very quick overview of what acceleration is. For deeper understanding, please watch my previous webinars or download our white paper. It has way more information. But essentially, the TCP is the backbone of internet today. It's great for browsing web pages. It's great for downloading emails. It's great for sharing small files, but it's not very good for bulk data. So if you need to send very large files, probably anything over a gig, TCP is not the right protocol. So TCP, as you can see here in my little diagram, sends very little bit of data at a time. So a little bit of data is sent from the source to destination, and then an acknowledgement has to be sent back from the receiver back to the sender saying that they got this little packet, and then more data flows through. So it's a very serial process. It's very slow as soon as you add any kind of latency or packet loss on the line. Latency comes from the fact that the speed of light is what it is. It doesn't go any faster, and any fiber network cannot lower the latency without there's just no possibility. If you send a beam of light around the world, it will take about 2 seconds to go around the Earth, and that's your delay. That is unfortunately unable to be resolved with current networking technology. So this is an example here how TCP is affected by latency. You can see here your throughput of 100 megabits. As soon as you start adding any kind of latency to the line, 5, 10 milliseconds latency, FTP or any TCP protocol starts slowing down quite a bit, and FileCatalyst will remain going fast. Of course, if you have zero latency, then TCP will give you about the same performance of FileCatalyst. So that's it's not really designed for local area network transfers. It's really designed for wide area long distance transfers. There's some occasions where local area network we see an improvement, and this is on the 10 gigabit, very fast backbone transfers, where you have maybe a latency of 1 millisecond or 2, but this is enough to push the FTP traffic to go very slowly. So instead of getting a gigabit, you might be getting 800 megabits. But that's the only case where local area network transfers would slow down. Anything where you're using a gigabit or below, the TCP on local area network will work. But this is not our job. Is really to make sure that those long haul transfers over fast networks work fine. So that's the that's sort of the effects of TCP on latency. How do we do it with FileCatalyst? Well, as you can see, we send several of these packets on the line at the same time, which means your line is busy. It's always moving data. There's tons of data going between source and destination, and we can maximize the throughput this way to give you full bandwidth capability regardless of how far you're sending the data. We're not affected by latency or packet loss. We're predictable, meaning that whether you're sending files from LA to San Francisco or from LA to Sydney, Australia, you'll get the same speed. And also gives you the ability to much better work with your congestion control, and we're able to slow down and speed up as the background traffic on the line changes. Another thing we can also do is that we can specify the exact speed. So if you want to transfer something at a given speed, even if you have more capacity, you can do this with our protocol. Once again, TCP does not allow you to control the throughput very efficiently. So here you can, if you have several transfers, you can say this one goes faster, this one goes slower, depending on your needs in your business. Bandwidth improvements with FileCatalyst. These are some real scenarios that we pulled from our existing clients. So you can see Amsterdam to London. Distance is only about 350 kilometers. FTP will take an hour and a half. We do it in a minute 23 on a gigabit connection. Now add the distance. Now increase the distance. New York City to Buenos Aires. Now all of a sudden you have 8,000 kilometers, and now the delay is much higher. It's 150 milliseconds, and FTP will take you 3 hours. We do it in a minute 23 seconds. 10 gigabit is very dramatic. LA to New York, for example, with 70 milliseconds, FTP will take 2 hours and a half. For 10 gig file, we'll do it in 8.4 seconds. So as you can see, the improvement is there. It's really from the fact that we don't care about the delay on the line, and you can send your data anywhere around the world as quickly as you can, and you can also fully control these transfers. So let's go back to workflow. So workflow is really one of our, we have 3 solutions: direct, FileCatalyst Direct, Central, and Workflow. I have webinars for the other 2 products, Direct and Central. This is really going to concentrate on workflow. So workflow, in essence, it's a web-based file transfer portal. It allows you to do 3 most common tasks that users want to do on the web today. So sending files to an email address. I have a large file. I need to send it to somebody so they can pick it up. I upload a file to some kind of a server. A link gets generated, a download link gets generated and sent via email to my recipient. The recipient clicks on the link and downloads the file. Another one is web accessible web folders. So I create a folder where multiple users can log in, see the content in that folder, and upload or download files to that folder and share files for collaboration, archival, whatever the users need to do. They can create. We can create several web folders. And finally, another one is the submission workflow or ingest. where a user logs in, fills out some kind of metadata or information about their upload, and the data lands in some kind of a central repository where you, as the administrator of the system, can pick up these files and do something. The ingest allows you to fire up, for example, another script or another process after it arrives, so you can automate these submissions, the file submissions from your end users. I'm not going to go into system requirements, but it's just a basic server with 8 gigs of RAM, 120 gigs of disk space, nothing specific. It is a software only what we provide. It can run on virtual servers as well, and we actually welcome that because it's a lot easier to back up and restore if you have any problems. And this is all on premise, so you can configure this and set this up on premise and have full control over the system. You can imagine workflows in essence for those that use services like Dropbox. Dropbox is a service where you kind of use someone else's storage and disk, and you can't control anything. Here you're sort of setting up like a Dropbox system where you can have many users coming in, logging in, uploading files, sharing files via email, submitting files, and you're the administrator of the system and running it. And you are running it. On the client side, the requirements are also fairly basic. You need some kind of a high-speed internet connection, of course. You need an email to receive the emails, and you need a web browser, a recent web browser. The plugin that we used for acceleration, it's called FileCatalyst Transfer Agent, does not require admin rights to be installed, but you do need to be able to install this plugin if you want to do acceleration. Otherwise, we have an option called a web form, where you can upload files directly to the web browser without any plugins. But then, of course, there's no acceleration, and there are some file size limitations for that, which I'll get in a minute. So FileCatalyst Workflow 101, I call it. What is it? Well, first of all, there is the transport part, which are the file transfer tools. So in Workflow, you have the transfer agent. This is it's a plugin, it's a web-based plugin that a user gets prompted to install. The installer is completely inline, and the user can follow just steps to install the plugin as they get the files. We have also the HTTP form upload and the HTTP download links for those that cannot install transfer agent or do not wish to install it. Then they can just use plain HTTP. Of course, the acceleration then is not available, but they can use the system without it, without transfer agent. Hot folder, we have also integration into hot folder where you can automate submission of jobs into workflow, and we have our mobile apps and an SDK. So if you go to Google Play or iTunes, you'll find a FileCatalyst app. You can install it, and then you can use it with your FileCatalyst Workflow instance for sending files from a mobile device. And then there's the intelligence part. So this is everything that we have. We have fields or meta fields. We have order forms, which is a grouping of fields. So you put whatever fields you want on an order form. You have something called sites. So you can create multiple FileCatalyst server sites. You could have a FileCatalyst server in Europe and another one in North America. And then either the user can select where to upload to, or you can make a decision for them where to upload based on what they enter on the order form. You have groups, which I'll also talk about. You can group your users and functionality together. You have also group folders or web-based folders for sharing. You have jobs. A job is really the transaction that stemmed from entering some kind of a field, some kind of an order form, and submitting the files. And then you have the status of this job. You have the file areas and the users. So let's get a little bit more in depth what file transfer options we have. So we have the transfer agent. It is a plugin. There's no file size limits. We will do an automated checksum when the file is delivered. So we'll do a bit-by-bit comparison that the file is intact. You can transfer entire folder structures. You can upload, download, and do file areas with it. And this is sort of the core of the file transport. It's the transfer agent. The hot folder allows you to automate. So again, you can do folder synchronization. You can schedule bandwidth. You can do other automation tasks like pre and post tasks. I'm not really going to get in this demo here on hot folder, but this is, if you watch the direct one, you'll see a lot of hot folder demos already on our website. Native browser, that's our form upload for those users that cannot install transfer agent. They can use just a HTTP form upload. There's no retry and no resume. There's no acceleration. We don't really limit the size, so 2 gig. This is what we support. We've had clients uploading 10 gig files with form upload. It does work, but because there's no automatic resuming or retry, we do not test above 2 gigs with the form upload, because it's just we're at the mercy of whatever web browsers have built in, and we have to work with that. And mobile uploads, you can upload into file areas and do some job submission from Android, for example, and iOS, which I'm not going to also show in this demo too much, but this is also available. So if you want to get into workflow components, so these are the intelligence components. Here I kind of list them all, but the idea is that you can make a number of input fields from text area, drop down, or select a date, a quantity. Then you have workflow modifiers, whether this is like a submission to a recipient via email. You could select also site selectors, so which FileCatalyst sites these files should go to. You could also have an email list. If this list is included, then everybody on the list will get the link to download the file. You can expire jobs, and then you can, on the download side, you can not only have a link that the user can click and download the files, but the link could be also password protected. So that means the sender has to specify a password. It could be automatically generated PIN, so the system will assign a password. Or we also have email authentication, meaning that the user will get the link. Once they click on the link, then they will be emailed a special authentication token that is only valid for 15 minutes to get to the files. So these features are kind of unique to us. Recipients don't need an account on the system. So you can send files pretty much to anybody. You don't need to create an account for the recipients. The system is fully automated and easy to use on the recipient side. So a little bit more about order forms. You have the collection of fields. So this is the order form is really a job is a collection of fields. You can have multiple order forms per user, per group. You can have a video preview as well built in on the download side. So when the link is sent and it's a video that can be transcoded into low-res proxy, a workflow will create a low-res proxy, and then the user can watch a little preview before deciding to download the given file. The job fields, so as I mentioned, you can have multiple order forms. Order forms can be assigned, can be global for everybody, or can be specific to groups, or can be also specific to anonymous users. Users that want to send files, but you don't necessarily want to create an account on the system for them. So this creates sort of like an upload portal where anybody can come in and drop files, and you tightly control who gets these files and what they can send and where. For sites in 5.0, we're only going to support FileCatalyst Direct Server 3.7.1 or higher. You can specify the target storage where these files are going to be dropped. Sometimes keep that a server doesn't necessarily mean it's a geographical location. That means that the servers are not in 2 different geographical locations. It could be the same FileCatalyst server, but it's just pointing to a completely different path in your storage. Because, for example, you want to separate your jobs by project. So let's say project A goes into storage X and project B goes to storage Y. So you can do this not necessarily, to keep in mind it doesn't have to be necessarily a physical server separate. It could be the same server, just different username and password. You can dynamically assign paths based on what's entered on the form. So if you have a drop down on the form and one of the seller options on the drop down is that this is post-production, then you could automatically assign a different target path for these files to arrive. We also have something called script execution, so you can fire up either a URL or a command line script if you want to, for example, start antivirus or start any kind of QC, automated QC. You can do this with sites. And finally, we also generate job artifacts. So we create an XML, a JSON, and a PDF file for whatever was entered. And once again, you can have this XML put in the same directory where the files were uploaded, or you could put this XML or JSON in a different directory, so it could be picked up by your MAM or your back office system, where you can then automate the submission and make it do something more interesting. So continuing here with my workflow components, you have a group. So group is you can create multiple users, and these groups can share a folder, can share transactions, can be assigned to specific order forms. So depending if a user is on the form, the user will see only different type of upload form than another user that is in a different group. Jobs it's the entity that combines the files, the order form information, and the history. So what was uploaded when, what files, where was it stored, where are the JSON or XML files located. That's a job. That's sort of your main transaction. And status, you can trigger different statuses. Some are automatic, like from incomplete to sent. When you send files, if there's an error, it could go from incomplete to error. And you can define multiple statuses based on your workflow. Users, so user, we have authentication with LDAP, Active Directory, a single sign-on, and the internal files database. You can assign functionality to users, whether it's going to be a submission user or ingest, whether it's going to be email distribution, whether it's going to be a file area type of user. So when they log in, they only see a group, a folder, web folder. You can also define whether this user is an admin or full access. And you can assign multiple groups to those users. So a user can take on persona of multiple functionalities. So for example, you could have a group for ingest and you have a group for distribution. You can assign a user to both, and then that user will be able to do both functionalities. And file area, finally, it's a web accessible shared folder. You can upload, download files from anywhere. You can also use hot folder to upload files and download files to group folders. And a big feature here is that you can submit files from any file area into the workflow. So you can select files in the file area, and then you can either send those files via email to somebody else, or you could have them submitted into as an ingest into the system. So this was a lot of talking about workflow in general. That was sort of what we have been doing for the since 2003 with this product. It's been 15 years we've had this product. It's went through a lot of iterations and incarnations, and this has not changed. This is sort of what was there already. And let's talk a little bit more what's in Workflow 5.0. So one big thing, so we change, of course, the user interfaces. So we've brought in HTML5 into Workflow. Everything now looks nice and clean and concise. We updated the admin interface. We updated the user interface, as you can see here. We also created a new templating system. So now this new templating system is all based on HTML5. You can make a very interactive and user-rich experience with Workflow now, and we've shipped it with 5 created templates. So here's an example of one. For example, this is a dark template. This is a light template. So we've made all these different templates created for you. We created the ability to assign templates to groups. So one user logs in and sees one interface, and another user logs in and they see a totally different interface. So it's for those users that work with, let's say, many clients, and you want the clients to be able, for example, have their own user interface. You can do that. You can now upload a logo and a background for the templates. It's very easy. You just select the file and you go. You can export it and import templates. For those that want to make their own, it's usually very good to pick the template that fits the best. Existing pre-created template fits the best to what you want to do. Download it, work on it, and then re-upload it back afterwards. We've created also new data usage reports and a dashboard. So sort of this is, we can see here. I'll be going through this in the demo very shortly. So this is so far. Let's get into our demo now. So let's talk about some of the new features here. So first of the features I want to talk to you about is the templating system. So what I did here, I logged in as administrator into Workflow 5.0, and this is your first starting point. So this is the new dashboard we created. You see how many jobs you get per day. You see how much data you're pushing through FileCatalyst Workflow. You're in, out, and total. You see your last 10 jobs and last 10 users. So everything is at a glance for you. What I want to talk about now, I want to go into manage templates and show you this screen, which is also a new look and feel. So here you have all your different templates. You have templates that have been created by us and are shipped with the system. So see when it says system provided, that means that this template was actually created by FileCatalyst and shipped with the application. And you have, a top nav, default top nav. You have a sidebar where the menu is on the side. You have Sidebar Dark and top nav dark. So default top nav and top nav dark are identical, except it's a reverse color. This is a dark one, this is a white one. And then you can also make a number of your own templates. If you want to make a template, you grab the one you like the most. For example, I want to do this one here, and I can make a copy of it by clicking over here. And once I make a change, so here's new template. You have to assign priority. So what's the relationship with the priority and the template is that if a user is a part of multiple groups, priorities used. The higher the priority, the higher the priority, the template with the highest priority will win. So if a user is in part of 5-6 groups and they all have a custom template, the template with the highest priority will win, and that's the one will be used for group assignment. So I can now create I just created a new template here, and now I can make changes. So the templates that ship out of the box, all you can change on these really is just upload your logo and your background, and you're off to the races. You don't have to play with CSS. You just take the template that you want, that you like the most. I can kind of show you here on, if I go to help index, gives you an idea what the templates look like. So this is the default top nav with the menu on top. This is the same one but with the darker menu. You have the one with the sidebar, and its brother where everything is just in the dark with white text. So as you can see, we designed the templates in mind that you can contrast it. You can have dark background with white text, or dark text with white background. And then we have a basic one for developers. Really, has very bare bones one. It's for the developers to kind of have an example of how to build more templates in the system. So this is the system template. If I go into a template that I made a copy of, so here's, for example, the new template I just did. I have a few more options here. So one of the options I have now, I can edit the source of the template. So I can go in here, and now I can start making changes to my template. As you can see, there's specific, it's all HTML, but you do have the ability to create, start menu, for example, end menu. You can create different links. This will get dynamically replaced in the application with the correct link, and you can then control where everything goes. See, we have template logo, for example, that's where you want the logo to go. As well as if you want to put any kind of CSS overrides, you just put them in your style here, and then you can create, something more custom and so on. So this is sort of how the template source works. It's similar to Workflow 4.9, but it was changed because we've added new methods. Everything is HTML5 now. So that's one thing, one side effect of Workflow 5.0. If you have a template in 4.x, you're not going to be able to port it into 5 because things change too much. So you would have to redo this template in 5, or maybe just start from scratch with a fresh template, and it looks nice. The other thing you can do on your custom, on your own templates, is that you can edit all the colors. So you can change your primary colors. You can specify these in hex or RGB. Sorry, hex or RGB methods. So if I, for example, pick here something like this and choose, see, I can do an RGB notation, or I can do a hex definition of it. You can specify the background colors and also what to do with the background image if you have one. I'll get into a minute, but you can have the background image to repeat or stretch throughout the screen so it's all fully visible. You can play with the font stacks if you want to have a different font, and all of this is available for you to change in a templating system. And once again, because you can have multiple templates defined, you can now assign templates to different groups. So for example, here I have a group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's assigned to default top nav. You can now, anybody that is part of this group will get this template. Any part that is part of the start group, which I'll get in a minute, will be able to see a different template. So this is the big one. So now let's go back to some of the more basic functionality. I want to show you how this looks now. So when I first log in, this is my view job area. You can see your previous transactions, just like you had before in Workflow 4.9. It's just nicer and cleaner, and you can add more fields here to show you the files you've sent. You have the download transmittal list, shows you who of the recipients downloaded the files, if it is an email job. So if you notice, not all my jobs have a tracking number, because some of these jobs are submission or ingest jobs, so then the tracking number is not needed. And some of these jobs are recipient emails, so sent to an email, so then you have a tracking number to pick up the files. So if I want to go to new job now, I'm just going to do here a very basic one. So I can log in, I can start typing in my thing. As just before, I have an autocomplete. I can autocomplete my input. I can put my subject. I also have my address book I can load up here if I want to select who I want to send the files to. This is still linked into LDAP like it was before. This has not changed. And here are my files. And now I can click on Upload Files. So as you can see here, it's launching the Transfer Agent plugin application, and now once Transfer Agent is running, I now see my local file system, and now I can go and pick files I want to send to my recipient. So I'll just go here and pick a couple of files to send, and click on Start Upload. So transfer agent is running in the background here. You can see in my system tray, and now the file has been sent. So now with the file sent, let me show you how what the recipients would see. So I'm going to just open up my email here. And there's 3 emails because I'm doing local. So one goes to the sender, this one goes to recipient, and this one goes to the administrator of the system. So if I click on this one here, all I have to do is just click on Get Files, and here are my files to download. So now what I can do here is just like before, I can either watch a short preview of this little video and download just individual files. See, I have UDP and HTTP. This one will use transfer agent. This one will just use the built-in web browser's HTTP download capability. So if you don't have the plugin installed, you can still get to the files without acceleration, but you can get to it. Or I can click on download all files. That uses my transfer agent plugin, and now files are being downloaded to my local system. So once the files are downloaded, we provide a button here to reveal the download location, and this opens up my web browser with the files I just downloaded. Like, as you can see, all the files go into downloads, and you can specify the path by configuring your transfer agent application, your transfer agent plugin. Where do you want to receive the files? So that's the basic workflow for email. As you can see, everything looks nicer, cleaner, more interactive, and so forth. Now, if I go to file area, my file areas, just make sure here. Okay. So the next one I wanted to show you is to do the public uploads. So workflow has the ability to what we call public access. So for those that you don't want to create a user account, so in workflow you have something called a temporary user, and you can tell a regular user that they have access to create temporary users. These are like sort of temporary guest accounts. So then under this idea, let me just log in here again as a user. I can click here and do invite others, and now I can invite any guest user I want on the system so they can send files. And this doesn't have to go to through administrator. Each user can be given this permission, and as soon as that user has permission, then they can invite other users. And administrators control how long these guest accounts are valid for: a week, 2 weeks, a few days, whatever you want. This is something you can create. So this is one way of dealing with guest accounts. Another way to deal with guest accounts is called public access. So in this case, a user was not invited, but they want to still send files into the system. So here's an example of sending files. So now I logged in as an anonymous user. I can fill out my information here. Here's my order form. As I mentioned, you can have multiple fields on the order form. This one has a date due. Here are my files, and I have a drop-down example here, and demo, and now I can click on upload files. So in this case here, I'm not logged in as a user. I just went as a guest, and I went into one of the order forms, and I'm uploading files. So this is like an anonymous upload portal that you as an administrator can very tightly control where things go. Now, I already showed you how transfer agent works. Let me show you the basic uploader with the new templating system. So if I go into here, what I see is that I can now select a file. Now I'm not running transfer agent. I'm not running any plugins. All I'm running is just a basic built-in HTTP uploader that comes with every web browser. So now I can select here the file I want to send and hit start upload, and this file gets uploaded. So yeah, I don't have acceleration, I don't have MD5 checksums, but I have the ability to send files without installing anything. You as administrator can control this process. If you don't want to have the users the ability to install anything, then you can force them to always use form upload, for example. That's also possible. but this is the guest uploads with the ability to control where things go. Next thing is I wanted to show you file areas. So I'm going to log in here as a user. So these are the web-based file areas that you can create. So you can, for example, here I have a file area for group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when I connect here, I can, go to my file, my documents, and upload a file. So this uploads a file to the group file area. Anybody in group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 can now see those files and share with them. I also have the ability to click on review recent history, and this will show me what changes were made to this group folder. Some other features: contact operator, that's an email sent to the administrator of the system. An address book, as I mentioned, I already showed it to you what it does. So this is in essence what the user can do. The core functionality has not changed. It just looks different and better. So the next thing I wanted to show you. So now I'm gonna go to do here a couple of things. I'm gonna go to modify configuration, and let me change my template. So right now I'm using default top nav as my template. Let me show you maybe a different template. So I'm gonna do Sidebar Dark. So I'm gonna set this one as my default. So if you set as default, this is the one that will be used by everybody. If this is the one that is selected. And then if I go to, now you can see my template already changed. Everything is dark. And if I log in as a user and I switch to the user mode, this is the sidebar dark sidebar that you can, as you can see. So you have your profile and a few helper buttons here. You have your new job here. So if I want to do in ingest, for example, I can now specify, my calendar picker where I want it. Here are the files. Here's a choice of drop down, and now I'm uploading files. But as you can see, everything looks it's a little darker, different looking. So you can upload files. You can see the colors are a little different. We've kind of set that up already for you. So you have the option now to do these quick changes and different templates depending on who you want. And now I'm going to switch back to admin mode, and I'm back to my dashboard. So as I mentioned, administrators have this new dashboard where you can see number of jobs, users. Another one we've added is another report, file size summary, where you can run a summary for the last, let's say, 30 days. It will show you your uploads and downloads daily. So you can see your capacity of your server. If you're doing a lot of transfers, well, maybe you need more disk space on the server, or maybe you need a faster bandwidth. And now you have this ability to see how much data you're pushing through the system daily. So that's, and then the last demo I wanted to show you here was multiple FileCatalyst sites. So as I mentioned, you can have, let's say, 2 or 3 FileCatalyst servers dispersed all around the world, and then you can connect them into here. And I have 2 created right here. So I have 1 and 2, and I can decide which group or which user goes where. So let's say my European groups can go to the European server, my North American users can go into the North American server, and you can define as many as you want of these servers. So you're not, you're always, you can manage and segment your data properly. Another thing we now added is that remote administration. This used to be a Java applet before to load the remote administration of these servers. Now it's all HTML5 as well. So as you can see, these are the FC web users. So this FC Web user is used by site 1, and FC Web site 2 is used by this one, and it's a different path. So I can segment my data where they go, or it could be a totally different physical server. In this case here, it's a demo, so everything goes into one place. So so that's pretty much the workflow 5.0, the new look and feel, the new templates. The last thing I wanted to show you, I went a little creative here, and I wanted to show you something cool. So I made a fictitious company called Stark Industries, and I made a template for it, and I just wanted to show you how this would look like. So I'm gonna log in as Stark, and as you can see, this user Stark has been, I've created a template. I've gave it a background image of Iron Man and a logo of this. And now if I go here and I click on, let's say, ingest, let's say I do a distribution and specify my recipient, file. So one thing we've added as well is that on the sending side, because it's always an anonymous or a guest user that picks up the files, we've added the ability to specify which template you want the recipient to use to download the files. So here in this case, this field is open. I can select it, but you as an administrator, you can lock it down and say when this user sends files, they always go as a certain template. Here, I'm just gonna select the template Stark example because that's what I'm showing you, and I'm gonna select here a pin download. So the system is gonna assign a pin to this upload, and now I'm gonna click on upload files. I'll go to my documents, pick a couple of files, and hit on start upload. So I got a little creative here, put a nice background image. As you can see, all of this is fairly easy now in the system. And now the file is sent. So if I go, I'm going to log out from here, and now I'm going to pretend I am the administrator, the recipient. So here's, you have received a package from Tony Stark, and here's my PIN. This is the password protected PIN for this download. So I'm just going to click on my link. So now I have to put in the PIN before I can get to the files. And now I am with my files here. As you can see, the template selected was the Stark template, so that's the one I see. And now I can download the files for this specific use case. And I'm done with the download. So this was just a little example. I wanted to get a little creative and show you something. So that's the demo. Let's continue here with my PowerPoint. So there are certain things that we had to remove in Workflow 5.0 for various reasons. Sometimes it's security, sometimes it's an inability to progress the product and build and continue building on the product. Sometimes it's just the ability to provide, you know, a better user experience. So the first thing, all third-party FTP servers will not be supported anymore in 5.0. So if you're using IIS FTP, FileZilla, or ProFTPD with FileCatalyst Workflow, you cannot do it with 5.0. You have to use a FileCatalyst server. We do license FileCatalyst server either with acceleration, or we also license it in FTP mode only or TCP mode only for those that don't need a necessarily acceleration but do need to have the servers. We simply had to do this for security reasons and for user experience. We couldn't continue working with third-party FTP servers because of technical issues. If you have if you have invested a lot of time in building your own old page template in 4.9, those will not be upgradable. You will have to either grab a new template and re and create it from scratch, or just start with one of our existing default templates. Java applets as a file transfer method, that's also gone in Workflow 5.0. Once again, Java applets are on their way out. At the moment, only Internet Explorer and Safari support Java applets. I think those browsers will remove it. I think Oracle removed, as of Java 8, there's no more applets supported anyways. But if you are, on a large enterprise where, you count on these applets, as I said here, we will be supporting 4.9.9 until pretty much end of 2019. So you have lots of time to make a move to transfer agent, or maybe just use the native web browser upload tools that Workflow 5.0 provides you. But we're not gonna be supporting any of this. Also, Tomcat 7 and Java 7 are no longer supported. So if your current web server runs these to put Workflow 5.0, you'll have to upgrade to Java 8 and Tomcat 8. And FileCatalyst Direct Server 3.7 and older is also not supported. It's only 3.7.1 and 3.7.2, which is also due to come out probably in the next month, will be supported. So yes, those changes will probably not be handy for everybody, but we had to make hard decisions in order to move the product forward. I hope you like what the new changes are, and this will make you want to upgrade. But this is something that we had to do. If you, however, and we do provide you almost 2 years of time to migrate to 5.0. So I'm hoping that you will put this into your migration plans in the next upcoming weeks, and that we'll see you using Workflow 5.0 in the near future. So for those that are watching the recording, I'm gonna stop the video right now. Thank you very much for watching the pre-recorded webinar, and I will stop my video here.